Hey everybody, Sharon here from VidGamiac.com. Here we are today back in the Overwatch archives going for the Glass Cannon achievement. This one's going to be available whenever the archive challenge missions are going to be available in the arcade. This one's going to be the second one. It's going to be another remix of Uprising. For your team build, you want to make sure you run Bastion, Orisa, Torbjorn, and Mercy. Make sure you get into this. The gimmick with this particular remix is you are going to have significantly less health on everyone, but everyone's also going to do a significant amount of more damage to the enemies. So it's going to be a pretty decent trade-off, although everyone is going to go down super duper quickly. So this one is going to be quite challenging, even though it is pretty even on the handicap. So the opening of the mission should be super duper easy, as everyone should be able to tear through everything super duper easy peasy. The Mercy player is going to have to be pretty proactive in this run, as everyone is going to need healing all of the time in case they do end up going down. Make sure everyone gets to the garage to capture the first point. We're going to stick to the old strategy where Mercy is going to hunker down on the desk in the back corner. Bastion is going to set up in turret mode right here to watch the left door. Orisa is going to hang out on the right side, and the Torbjorn can watch the staircase. Make sure you have the Torbjorn player pull back if they do start taking some heavy fire. Torbjorn's overload is going to be a really good move to use to overcome the deficit in health, so make sure you take advantage of that. Orisa is going to pop up her shield on the left side, as that's where the bulk of the enemies are going to come from. And then both of the higher DPS characters are going to watch that door. Torbjorn should take care of the right side for the most part, so Orisa should only take her attention off of the door if Torbjorn starts pulling back. So it's going to be a pretty straightforward first defense right here on this door, and Bastion should just shred through everything with the increased damage, thankfully, and that's going to be doubly true if the Mercy is buffing the Bastion. Mercy should be buffing the Bastion the whole time unless the Torbjorn starts taking damage, and if that's the case, Mercy should head over to the Torbjorn to heal him, and then once the point is captured, it's time to move forward. You can take either path, so either take the street or the building, and then everyone's going to converge where the two paths are going to meet as well. So everyone's just going to follow along and then get to the second hacking point, which is going to be the next gun battery. So regardless, make sure before you get to the gun battery, try to clear it out the best you can, especially of that first Eradicator, who is going to give you a ton of trouble, as he is going to be one of the first more hard-hitting enemies. So make sure the surroundings are clear, but your setup is to have Mercy hunker down in her corner right here. Bastion's going to set up in turret mode next to the gate. Orisa's going to pop up a shield to close the gap in the gate. Torbjorn is going to head over here to watch the phone booth spawning enemies that can sneak up on the Mercy, and Orisa and Torbjorn are just going to circle the gun battery, cleaning up shop while the Bastion is going to take point and then take out the bulk of the enemies that are going to appear on the street between the gun battery and the church. So pretty straightforward setup right here. Just make sure you keep up on the defense. Mercy should be pretty safe minus her right shoulder, so make sure that if the Mercy is under trouble, you have her call out to the team to help her out, as Mercy is going to go down super duper quickly, and you want to make sure you try to keep her up, as she is going to be the healer, obviously. Watch out for enemies who are going to appear from the side. Make sure Orisa and Torbjorn are doing a good job of protecting everyone, as the Bastion is going to be pretty tunneled vision towards the street. But once you do capture the point, it's time to start pushing up towards the street. So make sure you try to take care of any stragglers, as you don't want anyone flanking you. And then we're going to make our way over to the church. So once the church enemies drop in, make sure Orisa pops up the shield, and then Bastion's going to enter turret mode to try to clean up shop. If Torbjorn has his ultimate, it's going to be pretty useful to use it on that door, but since the enemies go down super quickly anyways, if the Torbjorn wants to save it, that's going to also be an option. Head into the church, don't have to watch the back wall, thankfully. Everyone can kind of take care of the front. Watch out for that left door, though. But obviously, if you do a good enough job of watching the two front entrances right here, you can pretty much mitigate anyone coming out of the left anyways. So just make sure you have the three main damage dealers up front and take advantage of the natural bottleneck that the doors give you in the church, and you should be able to capture the point super duper easily. And thankfully, thanks to that increased damage, you should be able to have no trouble here, as you're dealing with mostly normal enemies. The Eradicators might give you a little bit of trouble, but if everyone just pools their firepower together, you can take them out super duper quickly as well. And this is going to be another easy point to get through. So thankfully, the beginning of this run is going to be super duper easy, mostly thanks to the increased damage. So try to pick everyone up as we are finishing up this point. We're going to need to be at full health to get back onto the street. As you can see, Torbjorn's ultimate's going to come in handy, but make sure you don't over-rely on it. Now that all 3 points are taken care of, we're going to head over to the payload, make sure everyone is all healed up before everyone gets back onto the street, and then we're going to push forward. Watch out for any stragglers who might flank us, but we're going to move on to the payload. So once we get to the payload, remember the next sequence isn't going to start until all 4 people are on the payload, so make sure you take this time to clear up any stragglers, make sure everyone's at full health, and you can also try to build up everyone's ultimate. Basic strategy for this is Bastion's going to mount in turret mode on the payload, Orissa's going to throw up her shield in the middle, and the Torbjorn and the Orisa are going to hunker down behind the shield and then pick people off from the safety of the shield. Mercy is going to buff the Bastion constantly and then trade off between buffing the Bastion and healing anyone who needs it. Make sure the Mercy's head is on a swivel right here, as everyone is going to need healing quite frequently with that reduced health being such a big detriment. So make sure you try to focus on that. Keep an eye out on everyone's health bar, either by looking at them or taking a peek on the upper left to see whoever needs health, and make sure you try to get to them as quickly as possible. Everyone is going to want to stay in a big stack right here so the Mercy can trade on and off really easily. As long as everyone's staying close together behind Orissa's shield, the combined firepower of Bastion, Orisa, Torbjorn, and Torbjorn's turret is going to shred everyone apart. Alright, so about a minute or so into the run, we're going to have our scripted events start to appear. So 2 minutes and 52, we're going to be dealing with the first bomb. It is always going to appear on the left. So once that clock ticks over, everyone's going to want to turn their attention to the left, and everyone's going to want to prioritize dealing with the bomb. With the increased damage, you should be able to get rid of it before it gets even close to the payload, but make sure you prioritize it, as you do not want the payload to take any significant amount of damage from it. Once it's taken care of, Orissa's going to get her shield back properly, and then make sure you deal with the normal enemies. Quickly turn everyone's attention at 232 over to the right, as the other bomb is going to drop in from the right. Make sure you take it out. It's going to have a shorter lane, so be a little careful, but Torbjorn's ultimate is going to do a really good job of clearing the entire right lane. So once you take care of that, we're just going to push forward and get back on the defense. Keep an eye out at a minute and 52, as the Bastion is going to pop up. It is going to appear from a random direction, so make sure you have someone on your team notice it and call it out to the group. Everyone is going to want to prioritize taking out the Bastions, as they are going to hit really hard on this mode because of the little health that everyone has. So make sure you try to kill the Bastion before it can even mount into turret mode. That way it doesn't give us any trouble. So make sure you notice it, call out for it, and then make sure you gun it down before it can even get to its spot, and then make sure you get back onto the defense. At a minute and 24, we're going to have our next Bastion come in. Again, it's going to be random to where it spawns, so make sure everyone pays attention for it. Call it out if you see it, and then make sure you try to take it out before it can mount into turret mode, as once it does start firing, it is going to give the team a ton of trouble. So once you spot it, just make sure you take care of it, and then once it goes down, we are going to move on to the next bomb at 54 seconds. So a little bit of a break in the fire, but make sure Orisa keeps her shield up, and then everyone should be relatively safe firing from behind it, and then you should be able to take care of most of the things before they even get here, thanks to that increased damage. The bomb that does show up at 54 seconds is always going to come in from the left. You want to be a little quick on it, as you are going to have a Bastion that spawns about 10 seconds after it shows up. So make sure you don't waste too much time on the bomb and take care of it before it can get here. Again, a good Torbjorn ultimate is going to do a really good job of cleaning up the lane, but make sure you watch out for that Bastion that drops a few seconds after. So 44 seconds, the Bastion is going to come in. Make sure everyone is paying attention for it, and then make sure everyone takes it out before it can even mount, and that way we won't have to deal with its heavy fire. Then we're going to be on the final push. We're going to be at 19 seconds, where the last bomb is going to appear from the left. Make sure you keep an eye out for it. You have a Bastion that's going to spawn right after it at 17 seconds. Do keep in mind that once the timer hits 0, everything on the board is going to die. So just focus on trying to keep everyone safe at this point, and you should be able to get through this A-okay, even if you don't finish off the Bastion. But obviously try to finish him off before he can do any significant threat to anyone. Just run the clock out, and you should be able to get through this with the payload primarily intact, as that extra damage was able to give us a bunch of opportunities to kill things before they even got close to the payload. Then we're going to have to do the Escort Segment. This part is going to be probably harder than the defense part. So the basic strategy for this one is to have Torbjorn pop their turret on the payload, so the payload always has something on it to defend. Now, it's going to be very critical at the beginning of this escort segment that everyone be proactive and look for the first tank bastion that spawns. It can spawn either in front on the street, on the little staircase to the right, or behind the payload. So make sure everyone is looking out for it and make sure someone calls out for it as soon as it pops up. Be very careful whenever dealing with the tank bastions. You definitely don't want everyone clustered up in a big group, as the tank bastions can one-shot everyone. So be very careful with dealing with them. So try to split the group up. Mercy is definitely going to want to try to hunker down in the shops, and then everyone's going to want to try to pick it apart from separate directions. And then once you take care of the tank bastion, feel free to move up with the payload. You definitely don't want anyone to stand on top of the payload while escorting it, because that's going to make them a sitting duck out in the open pretty much, as you're going to take fire from every direction. So people are just going to hunker down on the little sidewalks right here and then just zip back and forth, taking care of all of the obstacles. Make sure you quickly take out the bomb when it does appear. Torbjorn's ultimate is going to be perfect for that. Watch out for any enemies who are in the high ground, so make sure you are keeping an eye out on the windows. But you definitely want the Mercy player to stay the safest, as she is going to go down very quickly, and she is going to be great in a pinch with her instant revive. Now, if someone is about to die, make sure you try to have them die as close to a shop wall as they can, as the Mercy can head indoors and she can pick them up from behind the safety of the wall. So that's going to be a pretty useful trick. It's going to be a little tight if a tank bastion spawns, as the tank bastions can roll into the shops. So be a little careful when those moments happen. But as long as everyone is going to kind of semi-split up here and make sure they keep a safe distance from one another, that way the tank bastion doesn't one-shot the entire team, you should be good for this. And then just make sure everyone keeps their spacing with the payload intact, and you should be able to push up a-okay. Then once we get to the final turn right here, you definitely want to hunker down in this corner. Orisa's going to pop up her shield, and this is going to be a great spot, as the Bastion player is going to have a clear shot at all three lanes: the main road, the little staircase on the left, the subway, and then the backside right here. And of course, the Mercy can use this little barrier to try to get everyone. Now, once the tank bastion spawns, though, you definitely want everyone to pull away from the corner, especially the Mercy. Mercy's ultimate's going to come in handy right here, as it is going to allow her to get out of danger super quickly, and the multiple healing streams is going to be super useful, as she is going to fly around and then hopefully pick everyone up. So make sure you get everyone back on their feet, and then make sure you try to deal with those tank bastions the best you can. You can also hunker down in this corner by the door. It's a pretty safe spot for everyone. Make sure you watch that right shoulder, though. Orisa shield and Torbjorn turret the intersection, and you should be able to get through the last few enemies a-okay, and then we should bring the payload to the door. So everyone can kind of hug the bottom right corner of the door in order to avoid the explosion animation that happens with the payload that would normally knock everyone back. Orisa's going to move her shield up to the backside of the payload to take care of any stragglers who are going to attack us from behind. And then once you get the door open, it's time to move on to the last room. So make sure everyone gets picked up all the way, and then we're going to make that last push. Watch out for that first Orisa. The Orisas are going to start throwing out their magnets, which is going to give everyone a ton of trouble, especially if they coincide with a tank bastion, as the magnets are going to pull everyone together, and that's going to leave everyone open. Have the Torbjorn drop their turret in the middle of the doorway, and that's going to buy enough time to get into this back right corner right here, and then everyone's going to focus their fire on the first turret bastion on the ridge. Orisa's shield is going to come in handy right here, but make sure you take care of that first turret bastion, and then we can work on the Orisa from the safety of this corner right here. You should have plenty of cover to take her out from a safe distance, especially if our Orisa is going to throw up her shield in this gap right here. Mercy's definitely going to want to hang back and then try to heal people from a distance, as you are going to be under some pretty heavy fire. Make sure you take advantage of Torbjorn's turret as well, and then you should be able to make the push up. Be very careful of the Orisa magnet, though. You definitely don't want everyone clustered up in a big stack, so try to keep everyone a little bit separate, especially the Mercy player. So because we're going to make this push super quickly, the second Orisa is probably going to round the corner at this point, and she's also going to give us some problems. Thankfully, we can kind of hang back here and then deal with her from this point as well. But do keep in mind, every time you kill an Orisa, a tank bastion is going to spawn. So you're going to have to be super careful if you take out both of the Orisas super early, as you're probably going to have to deal with 2 tank bastions. You can kind of dip into this office for cover. Remember to keep the group separate, as you do not want the bastion blast to one-shot the entire team. So make sure you try to split up into 2 groups whenever trying to look for the tank bastions. Whenever someone does end up taking a spill, you want to be a little patient in reviving them. Obviously, you don't want to rush into enemy fire in order to try to pick them up. Do take advantage of Mercy's ultimate right here, which is going to be a great way of pulling her in and out of danger. And do take advantage of any spots where you can try to revive someone from behind a wall. That way you have a little bit of extra cover, and then you should be able to pick them up a-okay. So make sure you try to keep up with this, and of course do use Mercy's instant revive whenever you do have it, barring the very slow recharge time on it, but it is going to be super duper useful. Once everyone's back on their feet, hopefully you take care of the tank bastions, and you can start working on the turret bastion. You can take the one out directly across from us rather easily if Orisa pops her shield up in the doorway, and then our Bastion picks him off from this safe spot, and then we just have the Bastion turret in the back left corner. This one can be a little hard to deal with, so everyone's going to want to try to get this angle on him. Make sure you only take position in the doorway to try to take him out when Orisa has her shield, as you are definitely going to need that shield up whenever trying to pick him off from a distance. Once all of the turret bastions are taken care of, though, you should have a pretty safe push to deal with the last two Orisas. So make sure you try to take them out. Any extra firepower is going to help out here, so make sure you have Torbjorn take advantage of his turret as well. But you definitely want to make sure you try to get rid of that turret bastion in the back left corner, as that is going to be the main damage dealer in this last push. So right before everyone makes their last push, make sure you get everyone up to their feet, a-okay, and then we're going to try to work on the last Orisas or so. Hopefully the second tank bastion isn't going to give you too much trouble, or you have dealt with him already. If he is giving you any trouble, just have everyone back up and then pull him away from the Orisas. Obviously you don't want to have the Orisa magnets stack with the tank bastion fire. But if it's just you versus the two Orisas, you should be able to pick them off pretty safely from a distance, as you are going to have all this cover back here. So the Mercy player is definitely going to want to hang back when people do end up going down, and then try to get them back up to their feet a-okay. So once you take care of the majority of the threats, which are going to be all of the Bastion types, you definitely want to be very patient on this last push right here. You definitely want to try to take out the Orisas from as far back as possible using this corner for safety. Make sure you prioritize taking out their amplifiers, as that's going to lower their damage, and then we should be able to pick them off with relative ease from far away. Thankfully, the time limit isn't going to be that big of a factor since we are doing this on expert difficulty, so no legendary crunch right here. Once you pick off one Orisa, the other one should go down super duper easily as well, since they're going to have less shielding to work with. So pick everyone up, and then make sure you just have everyone spam their ultimates on her, and then once you take care of all of them, you should be good for the mission. There's the achievement, 15 gamer score, and that's all there is to it.